¿Estás manteniendo el tiempo?
Sí, yo lo estaba mirando. Te pasaste 10 minutos, pero bueno. Y ahora nos pasamos. Le cortamos 15 minutos a la discusión. Tenemos 45 minutos. Menos 40 minutos.
5 minutos antes avisé.
Tengo.
You want to share my coffee? Hi. Oh, come on in. This is kind of a bad seat right here. Yeah. I know. It's kind of like a bad seat.
Okay, I think it's time to resume.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. Just take the top off. Okay. So it's medium or flat.
We are sort of about 10 minutes out of the schedule, so we would like to go back to the program, the schedule program. So just to avoid cutting the presentations coming afterwards. Steal minutes from the presenters. We don't have a fixed format for the next 45 minutes. We just would like to open this sort of items to discussion. We could start from the first one, we could start from the last one, whatever. Whatever your interest, whatever your questions are, whatever your suggestions are. It's really, we have 45 minutes to an open discussion, and I would like just to coordinate it a little bit. That's all. And here's suggestions, here are your questions, and whatever. Do we have any questions from the YouTube channel, Igor?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, no questions. Good. I'm all ears. Yes. We don't have a microphone. Maybe you.
Why don't you just repeat the questions?
Yeah, I could try to repeat the questions.
So you brought up the website and the discussions over there. I think we should have a little bit of discussion about that.
Yeah.
In the sense that I value the discussions that are there.
Yeah.
We had some heated discussions there, which not everybody enjoyed. I understand that. But I think it's a vital part of our.
I'm going to repeat this through the microphone for people in YouTube know about that. Roland is proposing to discuss about our webpage and the way in which we conduct discussions there, the aims of the webpage itself. Yes, we said we were going to be able to do that. I'm trying to now go to. We changed computer, and this one I don't know it properly, so maybe we just put this just to help us to focus the discussion. Well, yes, please go ahead.
Because
can we point the webcam in his direction? The webcam has a microphone as well, so probably it will pick up his voice as well.
So from the forum, the most popular items are the news and some of the conservation discussions, and I think it's very valuable. But it also brought in some gridlock and some people leaving, and some anger, and I think it's very valuable to have a neutral, all professional ground where we can discuss things. But there's also some people that try to avoid a lot of discussion and only what in your words in the previous talk was to avoid all of this and just settle on the science, which I understand, but I think we need the balance in there and how to come.
This is a matter of coming here just in case.
Yeah,
that should have a microphone. But your point is extremely valid. And what I mentioned was my personal view about that, which is subject to discussion, and we can decide whatever else we want. We are free to do that. In my view, sort of answering what you proposed, we could decide, okay, let's have a space for discussion. Let's have a space for controversy, maybe debate. Yeah? We could create a sort of particular forum inside the webpage for that. Something like that, whatever. Yeah, debate forum. Yeah? Give me a second. And then, because if we create a particular one and we restrict those kind of discussions to a particular forum, then people can decide not to subscribe to that. Yeah. So people who are not interested in all those kind of discussions, which may bring something, may not, one can simply decide to not to subscribe, or if it goes into a direction which is not interested for yourself, to unsubscribe. There's a little button below each of the topics, and you can just push the button and say subscribe, not subscribe. So if you don't subscribe, you receive no alerts about what's going on there. And that's it. It's a way of restricting it. That's an option that comes to my mind.
It's a very practical solution, but I think that it's also a matter of conduct and not being afraid of controversy, which is inherited with fairness.
Something that happened is that at some point in one of the recent ones, the words used and the tone was sort of inappropriate.
Yes.
And at some points it became a little bit not respectful. And that is why yes, you want to say something about it.
Yeah, because you already do an awful lot to moderate Minds website, and this kind of discussion component is going to need a moderator.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing I would say is, does the group have the capacity that is somebody who's neutral that wants to manage this thing? Because it needs a moderator.
Your question is absolutely, Igor, if we could turn the webcam to whoever makes a question, maybe people in the YouTube can access this. Can you repeat that, please? More or less.
I'm asking if the group has capacity to moderate such a controversial sort of forum, because I think it would typically it will escalate and it will need effort. And I'm interpreting from what you've already said, and we contribute a lot to the existing platform. Maybe that you are not the one that wants to invest that energy and time or has that time. And so is there somebody else? Because if there isn't, then maybe it's easy to avoid.
It's exactly as you said. The thing is, do we have the capacity to moderate such things? Well, basically, the answer is no. Because if someone has to do that, it's myself. And I am at the moment feeling like an octopus, just doing this and that and that and that and that. So at the moment, give a second, we don't have the capacity. Someone could jump in and say, I offer myself to be the moderator, and we could have a person in charge of that if someone volunteers. And this someone has to be the person who is in regular contact with the coordinators, different coordinators, so that there is a common idea of where to go to. And if that happens, then we could have the capacity. If not, I personally cannot volunteer myself to continue doing that kind of work anymore. We are growing, as a group. And the amount of things we are doing is, well, you've seen, is coordinating all that is simply a huge task. And if we keep adding things, we need more hands. It's the only way.
Okay, so if we summarize...
Give me a second. He has a... Sorry.
Just listening to this morning session and listening to the great work that's going on. If you're a moderator, you probably need someone that is neutral in an outside capacity to come in who you think the organisation respects, because they've got no personal views, they're unbiased, they'll listen to those both parties talk about what their concerns are, and that takes a lot of pressure off individuals in the organisation, and it actually adds a lot more, gets that passion or that heart, because parrots in the world have been in that for generations, for a long, long time, and that's also outside this organisation. There are many organisations, as you and I know, that also have the similar concerns, and to build on that, I think in the way I see this morning, this organisation can grow, but I think if you've got someone a little bit external that becomes a mediator, I'm just putting it out there as
It's a good
idea.
Yeah.
An excellent idea.
So this is a call going out to people. If there's somebody who wants to be a moderator, then we can go on.
Or someone in a whole IOC organisation in Waterbird, somewhere else, may have that.
Preferably somebody who doesn't know anything about parrots.
Oh, but just someone who doesn't have that influence over. You might have a great passion and discussion about a certain area, and the person you're discussing with has a similar passion, but they can't beat eye to eye. And this is the situation you get with parrots worldwide. But someone who has that.
Do we have anyone here who would be interested in being a moderator?
Questions?
Yes.
So are you suggesting that you have a moderator who's going to screen every post before it's posted?
No, it's not screened. I couldn't call it that way, but it's more or less what I've been doing right now. For instance, 2,606 posts. I had to read them all and check them all for appropriateness of language and so on, and just to and sometimes I had to send a sort of, oh, wait a second, that has been a bit too harsh. Try to be a little bit lighter.
You say, I can't put that one on.
The web page itself has a system that allows deleting messages, ban members when they do what is not supposed to be done. That is in there. We haven't used that till now. It's several years using this web page, and till now it hasn't been necessary, and I'm very happy about that. We, on 2 occasions, if I remember properly, we had to say, come on people, turn things down, it's going a bit too high, and everyone, I'm glad about this, reacted in the proper way, and no problem at all. But if we decide, and at that time I also said, everyone, please people, this is not a group for controversy or debate, we don't want to go that way. But that was sort of my opinion in my position at the moment. And of course it's subject to, we can decide whatever, different. But if we say we want to have a space for debate, we create a forum, we can call it debate, and we can just put there some controversial posts and see what happens and where it goes. So definitely we need a moderator, and I think this idea of having sort of someone who is not a coordinator or not a secretary is going to be good, because it's going to be sort of, from an independent person. But that takes a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that at the moment I am not able to do. I'm really just spread very thinly over too many things, and also that is one thing. And also I've been looking for help among group members, and the answer I always receive is, I could help, but not if I need to go through all the messages in the web page. People are sort of afraid of that amount of work, and I can understand that absolutely, because it really, just to be honest, it's taking me something like 2 hours per day recently. And I cannot afford that anymore. 2 hours per day is really too much. I have basically, I'm talking to every one of you, my official work is on secrets. Yes. At the university. and research on seabirds. And I'm doing all this because, as someone says here, parrots are just a passion, yeah? And you get passionate about parrots and period. Yeah? And if you have to sleep 2 hours less, you do it, yeah? Because you simply love these guys. But there are limits. Yeah?
I think if we recap the situation, we need a volunteer to do that. I would love to do that, but I'm usually part of the controversies, but I'm not doing it. And I'm sorry, but I really love to be on the front there and having you around with the scientific community here to be able to discuss and have an open discussion. And I really hope in the future that there will be a constructive side for that. And if there's a volunteer somewhere out there, please let us know.
Yeah. I like to be very specific always. There is, for instance, here sort of consensus about the need of having a debate forum in our webpage. Do we want that?
Show hands.
Yes, please. We have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there is interest. There is interest. 9.
No.
No.
I have a question. What about the Facebook page? That's very easy.
May I tell something about that? Go ahead. Good.
I'm going to sit down here. Actually, we do have a Google Plus, an Instagram, a Facebook, and a Twitter accounts. We do have these 4 things, and some of us were using them at the beginning of this year until I start to receive one complaint email after the other. And at some point, my inbox was filled with complaint messages. And after I had to apologize something for the 5th or the 6th time about the content of our social media to some other people who felt offended, I called the people who organized this. Roland was organizing, you were organizing the Facebook group. Girl Scientist was organizing the Twitter. We had people organizing each one of them. And I asked them to just, okay, hold on, stop it, yeah, because this is turning into a mess. So officially, the working group Psittaciformes is not recognizing those social media as part of our group anymore. Because what happened there, and because I spent a week apologizing to other people about the content of the social media. So I think that's not correct at all, and it is unacceptable. So we start discussing with Roland, Nathaniel, Girl Scientist, who else was in that discussion? Rowan, Martin. Yeah.
Sorry if I forgot some names. We start to discuss what to do about that. Some 2 months ago or something like that. And we decided that before reopening, or it is open, it is there, it's not closed, yeah. But before we recognize them as part of us, we need to create a guideline or a sort of code of conduct. Yeah, how do we want to behave in those social media? And we need to write that down, make a sort of, and distribute that to all participants and members. And when that is in place, we can start reusing it. That's my view of the thing. We can decide something else. Nathaniel offered to produce this code of conduct, write it down, and he was meant to send that to this small group where we were discussing this. And we should draft that at some point, and when it's ready, distribute to the group and decide what to do. Any suggestions you may have, please go for them. Yes?
So you still need,
Igor, could you please point the webcam?
you still need someone to police it. And that would still come back to you. So it becomes quite onerous.
Yes, it does. But when we start with this, we had people in charge of each one of the social media. For instance, Roland was in charge of the Facebook, and he was meant to be the moderator of that. We could continue that scheme. I'm not going to get involved in any social media. I just tell this here, I don't have time for that. I cannot allocate time to that, not at all.
Rather than having, so presumably everyone going in these groups should be professionals, rather than having someone try to police all of these forums, we have some kind of a code of conduct agreement that everyone has to read and agree to before participating in a forum,
Yep.
and then just respond to issues as they arise. So if there is something that happens, presumably a complaint can be made.
Exactly what you asked is what Nathaniel is drafting at the moment, and I hope he will be able to send us the first draft of this soon. And when we have it, we will just open the discussion around this draft, and we will be able to suggest whatever we want. And then at the end, we have it. We publish it in our webpage, and that's it. My personal view, I don't want to impose again and again, is, okay, my personal view is, if we want to have discussions and we want to debate things around parrots, we have this wonderful tool, and we don't need to spread ourselves too thin, just taking more and more. My idea when I said yes to the social media was as a way of spreading the voice of what we are doing, sending message to the general public, transmitting information, doing dissemination, just to do that. We can have our own discussions and our debate, if we want, sort of privately here, and we can moderate it here in a much better way than if we are open into many places. This is an absolutely personal view and is open to discussion. Go ahead, please, take a look.
My personal view is that I really like working group because it's objective and everybody supports everybody else's research. It's a very supportive forum. And once there's open debate, it becomes more divisive, where it tends to separate us into different groups and generalized, just kind of generalized subgroups. And so, for me personally, I would rather have debates on some other platform or within that limited forum we've already created.
My personal view is I would avoid debate at all, completely, and keep going the way we've been doing till now, which is, it proves it has been a very productive way. And we've been reaching points that were absolutely unthinkable 8 years ago. That would be my personal suggestion. Still, I don't want to cut anyone other's initiatives. So what you are, Mark, isn't it? Yes. What Mark is suggesting is sort of against what we were talking a few minutes ago, is no, we don't bring in any forum here for debate. We keep as it is. We avoid debate inside here, and we leave this as the coordination tool we wanted for joint work. And if any debate has to be conducted, or if we want any debate going on, we could use the social media for that. For me, it's a good alternative. I don't know what you think about it. Yes, please.
So I'm new to group, I suppose, so I don't know any of the backstory. But I guess you covered part of what my question was going to be in that with the Facebook and Instagram, Twitter and whatnot. It seems like the idea for that is it's a science communication tool to get the word out to people. And that makes sense to me. Have on Facebook especially, have a page group where people can just follow it, and we, or the working group, can share information with the general public. And then any kind of discussion can happen in comments with people in the general public, but we don't, I assume, want the general public to be privy to any arguments or any debates or any controversy that might be happening. And so that should be, in my mind, part of this forum where only researchers and scientists and people who actually work on parrots can partake and discuss things and have debates if that's what people want to do. But social media, with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and whatnot, should be a tool for science communication and informing the public who don't research parrots as to what's going on and new research is happening, and like, oh, hey, look at this cool parrot, this whatever is going on with it. That makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense in my mind to have a separate Facebook group if we've already got this forum to have discussions as researchers. Am I making any sense?
You're making a lot of sense, but not having discussion on Facebook is impossible. So the Facebook is built for people responding to.
Yeah, and that will still happen.
Yeah.
But
that's the thing.
it should be more of a, Facebook is a great tool for science communication and for getting the word out about research and cool stuff to people who aren't scientists. In my mind, that's what it should be used for. And you can still have debates on it. So if the page shares something about your research and some member of the public comments about it, you can see that and you can comment and reply to them on Facebook as a researcher. But it should be, I feel like Facebook should be a tool for communicating with the public.
Okay.
And for having discussions with the public about stuff and educating the public. Not for...
That's a full-time job, yeah.
No, because we could set that up so presumably people could be authors or could just contribute, so any one of us could go and say, hey, I just did this paper, or here's a picture of my recent work, and so we could all be authors on this Facebook page, we could all be contributors. So we could make it very easy.
Yeah.
Managing the discussion, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, but you don't have to though.
Yeah, that's true. It takes a lot of time.
There's a discussion going on with swift parrots and orange-bellied parrots in Australia on Facebook. Quite clear. Usually what I see is friendly, but you don't have to get into big, heavy discussions. But it tells the people what actually is going on. If you don't have the community on board with what you're doing, that's where your funding comes from. That's where the people come from.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is the other one, that the caging and everything else is that other thing. And that's where you see a lot more of that going on. But it's high time that the positive stuff comes out of swift parrots, orange belly. The community are involved.
Yeah.
Because
lots of other organisations have social media pages where they just educate the public and get information.
I'm going to sort of summarize what I'm just listening from everyone, because Igor is making a comment that we have something like 15-20 minutes left. I'm going to stick to the time, and we have other things to discuss about. It looks like we are talking about keeping the web page as it is, all right? So general consensus in that way? Yes, many heads are saying yes. Okay. I know the picture I'm pointing there, the picture is not there anymore. Good. We could, if we have a code of conduct, we could have the social media flag. I don't have nothing against that, but there are a couple of buts hearing everything that is being said here. We need someone to keep an eye on it and moderate. We need a moderator. Someone has to volunteer as a moderator, so we need a code of conduct. We need a moderator. I have the feeling some social media are better for some things and some are for other things. Yeah.
Yep.
For instance, what we have in our webpage in a sort of small scale, yeah, to spread the beauty of parrots could be done in the Instagram account we have. The spreading, dissemination could be done through the Twitter one and just restrict it to that. Instagram to some nice pictures and art or whatever we have around parrots to stimulate people. The Twitter as a spreading of information, publications, and whatever news about conference and whatever. We also have it in the webpage, but if someone wants to spread it through Twitter, is welcome to do that. And we could have the Facebook as the place for the debate. But we will need really a moderator, and a moderator that is in close contact with the regional coordinators and the secretary office. Could it be you?
It could be. It has been, but it depends what the moderation rules will be.
We need to discuss that, but we don't have them in our hands now,
so
we need to wait till the draft is
we'll,
there.
we'll collect those, and if we're in this fall, we'll decide.
May I suggest that you insist with Nathaniel about the draft, and we work on that in the near future?
Will do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just maybe as a comment, just joining the other comments before, I still think it might be better to just have one part of our webpage of the forum, a sub-forum where we have a discussion, where you can just subscribe or unsubscribe, as you said, and then have the code of conduct, so it doesn't need as much moderation, maybe.
Yes.
Because I think what you're saying is right with Facebook. If we have a Facebook page where we can all contribute, it's not as much work, and there are a lot of examples where it works very well. But in that Facebook page, we should send together as a group. I don't think we should use that for internal discussions and disputes.
No, internal discussions needs to be done through our web. Absolutely, I agree.
Technically, the Facebook groups and Facebook pages. And what you're suggesting is a page.
Yeah.
But if we all want to contribute to that, that's a group.
No,
And
you can have multiple admins for a page, and then everybody can share stuff.
But that's organizing that is far more difficult.
Just a little reminder.
You can also have an admin who just accepts, so people can, you can just take a look at these.
Have
We have inside the web page 2 fora which are already meant to discussions. Yeah. I would say not to debate, but yes to discussion. And these are the conservation discussions forum and the research discussions forum. And they are there. We can use them for what you are suggesting. We don't need to create another one. It could be just those discussions can be conducted there. That's not a problem. And usually that doesn't imply too much work. It's something that I or the future secretary can do. Yeah? Remember, we have elections. Yeah? We should go through them. I very often complain about scientific groups not being democratic enough and being very hierarchical. And I would like to insist that we keep democratic. So we need to organize our elections for the next 4 years. This needs to be done after the IOC. It's been traditional that way in these 8 years. It has been done after the IOC in Campos de Jordão has been done after the IOC in Tokyo needs to be done after the IOC in Vancouver. Everyone, I'm going to send a message around at some point together with the regional coordinators about this, opening the elections. Everyone can candidate. Please do that. Yeah, everyone. And I will be extremely happy to see that we have 10 candidates per region or more. Yeah, that means we are interested. Volunteer, please. We need help. We need people getting involved in this. There is something that I would like to mention here. Last election, there was very little participation. Something like 30% of the members participated of the elections and 70% did not. This is a sort of agreement with trends, political trends all over the planet. It's happening everywhere on this planet. And I really, really think it's wrong. It's extremely wrong. I would really ask everyone to participate. We need the opinion on everyone. And I was saying, as secretary of the group, I have a little power on this, yeah? And I'm going to use it. Sorry about that. But the thing is, last time we accepted election results where some candidates who win had 2 votes. Oh my God. And they win because they had 2 votes. And no one else had more than that. And I think it doesn't work that way at all. So I think we need more participation. And if some region is voted with 2 or by 2 people, I'm going to call to elections again and not accept the results of an election where we have only 2 votes. That's not right. So please participate. Please encourage other members to participate. And please, if you have any idea how we could improve this, say, please. Go ahead.
So we have different regions. So the urban parish as a region. So different parts. And every member was only able to give 1 vote, not to different regions. So this is, of course, this is one of the reasons why we had so few votes, because you only had 1, and you could not vote for several regions because they are not competitors, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we make it more open, probably you could have for each region, you could vote for each region.
1 vote for each region, for every person.
Every person can vote for each region. This was just a suggestion.
What do the other
this will
things?
Increase the number, right? Because I know the people only have 2 votes.
Yeah, several countries have this kind of voting when voters have more than 1 vote. We could do that.
Because who is for which region are you standing, or so? How can we decide?
At the last election, I decided to go for the neotropics because my work was is in the neotropics. But yes, you're right. Any other ideas?
I was wondering if we could. There's a finite people that are members of the forum, but if you actually look at the forum, there's far less people who are active daily. And I would suggest you could also use the participation of the forum as a kind of democratic process. I see, well, if your activity and popularity of certain topics could be used as democracy in that sense. And just have these formal elections every couple of years, because I was elected twice, very honored, but my coordinator, I haven't seen him since that time. And because I'll see.
Yes, I know what you mean.
So, and and it's for our internal things sometimes, but I think there's a lot of democracy actually happening on the forum.
I totally agree. We have a number or some regional coordinators that have been almost never active after the elections. They were elected and they never were really active. And I can tell you it's exactly in the cases where these people received the fewest votes.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have any pressure from the people that elected them to be active, actually. That is one of the reasons why I don't want to have someone in the post with just 2 votes, because it doesn't work. But how you suggest to make this work? I don't get the point completely.
So you just now have just a list, but you don't know what they're actually doing, how they're approachable, and how well they communicate and participate in a discussion. I think there's just by an active forum, there's a lot of democracy in there. I'm not very clear because I'm sorry, but sometimes you have different shape than just so many votes for this puppet, so many votes for this puppet, and so on. Participation is also a part of democracy, I think. I hope I'm making sense somehow. Another thing that you could do if you want to stick to elections is to have a minimal vote of like 5 votes for any candidate, and then strip everything.
Just put a minimum of yes.
And then do a preference, what the first preference, second preference.
Yeah, when I said that I wasn't going to accept any results with just 2 participants is something similar as you suggest. What basically you are suggesting is not having regional coordinators.
Yeah.
Because everyone can make it the thing like a direct democracy. Everyone can say, and if something needs to be decided, everyone can say, I vote for this and that decision.
Thank you. You summarized it very well.
Yeah, it's a direct democracy system. I don't know. We could do it. It's open to our decision.
Well, it takes resources. You have to organize the elections, and the results are.
It takes an awful amount of time. Last election I spent something like a week collecting everything, and it's not helping me. Absolutely.
So, just, as I said before, I'm near this area. I've been following this, but what's the coordinator do? What's their role? I know they could be contact.
That's an absolutely excellent question. How much time do you have?
No.
No time.
No time.
Well,
We are
am I taking time from a break?
We are taking time from the break now.
May I use the break to keep going on this? How many minutes?
13 minutes.
13 minutes.
Well, that's all.
I'm allowed to use the break. Go ahead. We all agree. Okay, because the question is
the point of contact.
The question is extremely relevant, and it's something that I was meant to talk about today, and somehow it just escaped my. When we decided to divide ourselves in geographical regions to account for diversity and to account for different mentalities, cultural, different approaches, and different problematics, and so on. We also talk about what a regional coordinator should do. And basically, the function of the regional coordinator is like the one who throws the stone in the water and makes the wave start. It's an initiator. Yeah? The function of a regional coordinator, function number 1, is the initiator of joint projects for the region. Is someone who looks for where the gaps are, where the opportunities are, where we should go. Someone that has a vision of the region, a wider vision of the region, and sort of, okay, I propose this project, that project, and start to like it's the initiator, the one that makes the first step, and try afterwards to coordinate that. Then, if there is a question, if there is a need or something that is specific to that region, that is the first person who has to gather the questions, the concerns, or whatever, and try to offer a first answer in coordination with other coordinators. Basically, that's the idea. And that should be. In some regions, during these 8 years, it has been working very well. In some other regions, not that much. But in general, all regions have been very productive. It's fair to say, very productive. So it means that the coordinators have been doing their job. But it's important to keep this in mind. That's the function of the risk of not coming back, just gathering your two comments. The risk of going to direct democracy and not having a coordinator is that it can bring us to sort of a passive situation, a situation where no one knows what do we do, and no one just makes this spark that fires everything, and then it could bring us to a still stand in some of the regions at least. So I don't know. I hesitate about that. I love the idea of direct democracy. If it were possible for every nation on this planet, I would embrace it. Absolutely. That would be the idea. But is it practical? I'm not sure. Yeah.
So if you do continue with the regional coordinator position, could you not ask those?
No. Sorry, that we have that in the YouTube channel too.
So could you not ask those who are putting their name forward as a regional coordinator to articulate a bit of what they would do as that regional coordinator before having the election?
Yes, we asked them in previous elections to do exactly that, present their vision, and this has to be done. Yes, that people know what their vision is, and then when they vote them or not, they have in mind what this person envisions for the region. Definitely, yes, it has been done the last 2 times, and it's to be done again, if we decide to go that way. Someone was raising the hands, and I don't remember who was. Yeah. So what do we do?
We have a discussion about it before.
We could do that. Absolutely.
I think that would be good.
We can start that discussion and ask everyone the opinion. Well, we are 235 and we are 35 here, so another 200 needs to say what they think. Igor, we have another question.
No, just a comment. Based on your presentation from this morning, I think the methodology that you have right now clearly seems to be working.
Yes.
The output is incredibly high. I often subscribe to the idea that if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So
Very good.
Staying the course.
If it works, keep it working. It's a very valid. Yeah.
But it should be manageable for you, and that's the thing.
For me or for whoever wants to candidate as a secretary.
Yeah.
The secretary post is not just reserved for me. Yeah? Any one of you can candidate, can present a new vision.
No, but there's a real threat. Everything is very much on your shoulders, I think, and we can't have this. It's very impolite to say, but it's single point of failure.
Yes, but for an institution, that's bad.
Yeah.
When an institution depends on just one person, that institution has no future. And that is my view. And I think I'm very happy doing what I do and offering the group the possibility of doing what we have done till now and coordinating all this. But I think at some point, I'm not sure when this point is the right point, but I think at some point we need to grow up. We will need to not be teenagers anymore. Yeah, I think as a group we are teenagers at the moment, very productive teenagers. Yeah? We are not children anymore as 6 years ago. We are teenagers. Yeah? At some point we need to go to adulthood and get independent from daddy, yeah? Or whatever you want to call it. Yeah? Oh yes. Sometimes I feel like that. When some controversies arise and I just mediate in that, I think, am I the daddy of people? And this shouldn't be at all. I think we need to, at some point, go into adulthood, and I'll be more than pleased if someone else is coming. Definitely.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
That's all.
That's the end. 4 minutes. Yeah. One minute for you, 1 minute for you, and 1 minute for you. Go ahead.
Super quick. Do you guys have, so back to the whole social media thing, do you have a social media officer or something?
Yes,
Is that a
we
position
do.
you have?
We do for each one of them.
Okay. Because that person should be in charge of all the social media.
Mm-hmm. We have 4 people in charge of everyone, but we don't have the code of conduct, which we are now drafting, and when it's drafted, we go back to that activity.
Okay, because that would help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, just quickly, because you're saying you spend 2 hours a day at the moment, and I read that it's very harsh and difficult to have one person for everything. Would it be one option to have a panel of secretaries? Something like that, a panel, maybe 5 people, and they could either manage it all together, or each panel member takes over a few sections of the
If we could have something like the librarian, which is missing, yeah, then the secretary would have 30% of its work gone to the librarian, for instance. So I will reduce the 2 hours to 1 hour and something. Yeah, if I could have a librarian, please candidate, volunteer as librarians, and so on. And I could restrict myself to certain things. We could have someone who is in charge of the web page, then I would avoid that kind of work and maybe concentrate on coordinating global projects, inter-regional projects, and then I will spend, I don't know, maybe half an hour per day on that. Yes, we could have more people in charge of the maintenance of the web page. We could have people in charge of the librarian, and so on. Yes.
Well, part of the idea is is voting not really quite tricky because different areas represented differently. So you've got larger numbers in active groups, and as you're saying, in the Asian group is much smaller, so it's hard to pick the appropriate people to suit that role. So you're much more limited. And then that kind of links into trying to help the working group grow. So actively really trying to advertise it more through Facebook. So we use that more as a form of a poster for the working group, and not so much as for discussion for use, but just when people are Googling things, that pops up, then that can link to, oh, okay, I get the idea of what you hear about. So spreading the news about it. And then is it worth looking towards to see what other working groups do in terms of it? It's not kind of, I totally agree, it's not very good picture, but it can be improved and streamlined before. What's other working groups do?
Well, basically, the problem there is that we are the sort of first and most active working group inside the union. So the union is looking at what we do, and building the model for other working groups based on us. So it's the other way around.
Why not contact working groups?
But definitely, now there are other working groups, and that would be it would be very important to start getting in touch with them and see how they solve some common problems. So right now, Dominique is in the second part of the executive committee meeting of the IOU, and she is presenting on our behalf a report I did of our activities, and they are going to have all the working group reports together, and they are going to take some decisions about how working groups needs to work in the future. How many minutes?
No.
None.
0.
That's the end.
That's it.
Sorry about that. We need to jump onto the workshop. We can continue discussing things here during the breaks. I can offer that gladly. I will stay here and we can continue. And I now just introduce Igor and Noelia, who've been working very hard to organize this workshop on pre-introduction. And I'm extremely glad on all the work they've done in this respect. I hope we will have a great workshop.
I will give you 5 minutes just to change our energy. So open walk. I will take 5 minutes to change the YouTube channel to make just a video for the workshop. So we start 11:05. Okay. Good.